Hey, welcome to another episode of Purpose Maker. I'm Dr. Wegmann. I love talking about a lot of things. One of them's health. Another one's smoking meat. So I got a friend here, John, and he is the former chef over at Mustang Wendy's, which was a big restaurant here in Harbor Springs. He'll give us a little bit about his background. We'll leave you with some fun ideas at the end of this. And I just want to introduce him here and kind of get his understanding. John, welcome.
Welcome. Thanks for having me. First off, let's kind of correct that.
Sure.
Wasn't really the chef. I was kind of like the head cook.
Okay.
The lead guy. So
Sure.
I don't want to take credit where credit isn't due.
Yeah.
So, before that, my wife and I moved here from Petoskey to Petoskey in 99.
Okay.
Where I started working at Boyne Highlands.
What were you doing at Boyne Highlands?
I did a number of things. I started off as a line cook there and worked over at the Country Club of Boyne for a little bit. Then I started doing the banquets that were there.
Oh, yeah. Cooking for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
After a while, kind of got mundane, came to an agreement to leave.
Sure.
And that's when I embarked on Mustang Wendy's with the two owners there.
Yeah. So what got your love of cooking? Where'd that come from?
It came from my grandparents, actually.
Ooh, tell me the story.
Every Sunday growing up, we would always be at our grandparents' house.
Okay.
And, it was a fight some days to get us to go there. Oh, I'm like, oh, do we have to go?
Grandma and grandpa.
But, it was always fun when we got there, that we'd meet there. The food was the best. Grandma spent all day cooking, even the day before, making meatballs and sausage and spaghetti. And
these are good memories. I'm getting hungry listening to you.
And my grandfather had this grill out back in the corner over by his garden behind the garage. And he and my father built that just out of bricks, real tall, kind of got a big chimney on it. Looked like a huge armchair or like a king's chair.
Oh, wow.
And you slid the grates in to the bricks that were laid out. And he would, every 4th of July, Memorial Day, he'd be grilling out on that. The chicken would be burnt on the outside and raw in the middle. But it was still fun.
So was this a wood-fired charcoal combination?
It was wood, yeah.
It was wood-fired.
Yep, it was homemade. After a number of years, my cousin, her name is Sandra, she inherited the house, and the grill was in such disrepair that they just took it apart.
Yeah, just
kind of sad to see it go down, but
it does. Yeah, it kind of explains my midlife wisdom podcast. Things in midlife change, and sometimes some of those old memories they're hard to let go.
Yeah,
but they're good memories. So, speed us up. You get into Grandpa kind of likes that. Then when do you start taking interest in cooking? Are you like teenage years, young 20s? When do you like, oh, this is really fun?
So, later teenage years. I just graduated high school. I was working at a restaurant that's no longer there. It was really popular. It was called the Acadia. And I should mention that this was back in Connecticut.
Okay.
Outside of Hartford on the east side of the river. Really popular place, Italian restaurant. It was always busy.
I love Italian food.
Oh man, this is where, between my grandparents and this is where that sparked that whole love for food. Not quite sure that I really wanted to go through that, being cook my whole life, but so I went someplace else to look for another outlet, another place to work, and I did the schooling. Didn't quite work out. I didn't feel the passion. So I fell back into cooking, and that's where it happened.
Cooking's a good way to communicate, telling people you care about them, nurturing people.
Absolutely. Yep. It's a chef of mine that I worked for. She said that it's one of the most intimate things you can do for another person is cooking for somebody else.
Doing a meal, right?
Or a bunch of people.
So. Yeah. So when did you start getting into grilling and smoking? That's what this midlife crowd's going to be interested in.
Probably not to my 40s.
Ooh,
You know,
that's when you know you hit midlife, when you start getting interested in smoking meat.
or your Civil War or airplanes.
That's funny. So that is true. All these little interests. My wife was sent me a little meme about midlife and seeing a certain bird on the feeder, and everyone's like, "Oh, look at the bird." You know, you never pay attention to that before that happens, and then all of a sudden you're interested in it.
All of a sudden, you know the type of bird it is and where it comes from and where it migrates. Yeah,
sure. Well, I plan on releasing this episode on the 4th of July, which will be this Friday.
Great.
Okay. So millions of people are going to be cooking over the 4th of July.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And I love smoking meat, grilling meat. And we didn't even tell people now. I mean, you're the meat guy.
Oh, yeah.
Now. So
currently I'm a meat cutter / butcher at Harbor Springs Market in Harbor Springs. Located at Lake Street and State Street.
Harbor Springs. If you're in town,
definitely
grab your meat over there. So let's go over some of the knowledge about cuts of meat. So I think a lot of people get confused about this. I'd asked you before, what was the highest or the most select cut? And you had said, well, that's kind of subjective. I know we talked about the Wagyu beef being the highest grade, but I'm talking like if you have one cow, is there a highest cut from that cow? And you said that's kind of subjective.
Right.
So tell me about that.
So
you break down a cow and then you start butchering it up into its pieces.
Yes. Well, we don't break down the carcass itself. That comes from a processing plant.
But that comes in quarters, maybe?
Yeah, it comes in quarters. Yeah. It comes in primal cuts. Yep. So like a big whole muscle.
Yeah.
And we get those in and we break those down. Okay. So the United States Department of Agriculture has a grading system. Prime being their highest, choice, select, and then it falls into ungraded territory.
Okay.
Now, prime, if it's USDA, it's prime, choice, or select. Mm-hmm. That's their standard. Now, there's other standards such as Piedmontese, which is Italian bred cattle. Excuse me, Italian bred cattle. Then there is Black Angus Gold, which is Black Angus cows or steer. Mm-hmm. Wagyu, like you said. Yeah. And we currently have Wagyu strip steaks.
Is that the Japanese meat?
There's Australian, there's Japanese, there's American.
Okay. So a couple different lines of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how about like that Angus Gold? Is that something you could find at the store or is that hard to find?
No, it's not hard to find at all.
So how would that compare to like a prime?
Very well, actually.
Yeah.
Even choice is a great cut of meat. There's just a little bit more marbling with each grade that goes higher.
And the marbling is desirable.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So people look at a steak. So let's take a ribeye, which has
my favorite cut,
which has a lot of fat on the outside, and then in the center, there's usually towards one end of it has got that glob of.
I call it like a little medallion, right?
Okay. Yeah, it's a glob of fat that's right there in the center. Mm-hmm. And then you have the inside the meat, the things that if you look at it and look at a piece of granite stone, you'll see that that's a marble. You'll see that kind of.
It's a pattern.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. Pattern. Yeah. You'll see that in the red meat. That's where all your flavor is coming from. Mm. So people do like leaner meats.
Right.
That's a personal preference.
But let me put a little health tip in here. So the fat that's found in ribeye is the same exact molecular makeup as olive oil. So there's not this huge concern that you're getting poor fat when you eat ribeye, which is what a lot of people think.
Right. I think that's, based on all the consumer products that are out there. Saturated fat is bad for you, trans fats. But the fat you find in a steak is different.
Sure. It's definitely different. Yeah. And the difference between grass-fed too. So people that are really health conscious, grass-fed will have an omega-6 to omega-3 ratio of about 1-to-1. So that means 1 omega-6, which is a essential fatty acid, to 1 omega-3. When you get into highly processed, which sometimes places have, it's 20 to 6. So 20 omega-6s to 1 omega-3. And so people listening, the higher the omega-6 count, which basically is found in like processed food, if you hit McDonald's, your omega-6s are through the roof. They cause a ton of inflammation in the body.
Mm-hmm.
So meats tend to be a much healthier cut because they cause very low inflammation when you consume it. So if we're going through the cuts, most people think filet mignon
is the cream of the crop.
Yeah. So tell us, is that a true understanding of meat or not?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Again, that's a personal preference. Your filet mignon, your beef tenderloin is a premier cut, and it's leaner, and it's very tender, fork tender. Your ribeye can be fork tender also, depending on the grade you get. Prime, Wagyu,
and how much you smoke it.
Yes,
I love smoking my ribeyes.
And obviously, the more marbling, the more flavor.
Sure.
So, not to say that it's a
poor cut.
Yeah. It's a great cut, but there are other people that like other things better.
What do you think about people that cook their ribeyes or fillets well done? What would you like to do to those people?
Unfortunately, I married one of them.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
So here you are, an absolute meat guy.
Yeah.
Medium rare is the most you should ever cook a steak. Just for anybody listening. Medium rare, I think, what is it, like 135, 140 degrees?
I like to go a little bit lower and let it sit a little bit longer.
Okay. Like so on the grill?
No, I like take it off the grill, let it sit on a cutting board or a rack, and just, let the juices run back through that meat. The longer you go, the better.
So what do you like to bring it up to temperature wise?
Okay. I go a little bit lower. I go like 125, 128.
Okay.
I don't know, of course, for the other people out there, if you
well done group,
if you want to eat shoe leather, sure.
So for the people that are kind of on the fence on how to do that meat, we're encouraging you to go medium rare. And it's the absolute best way to cook.
Or try to meet halfway. Go medium well. Okay.
Just not well done.
Just not, just dry as all get out.
So then you go down into like your ribeye. So we've joked about like a poor man's ribeye. What kind of cut of meat is that? What is?
So that comes off the chuck roll. The chuck.
Is it considered a chuck roast? Or chuck steak?
That piece is actually inside the chuck roast.
Ooh, okay.
So it's on, like on the bottom, and when you're looking at the chuck roast, you see this like crescent or like as half moon piece. That you can cut that out, and that will be your they call them Manhattans or chuck high centers.
Yeah.
Okay.
What is a Delmonico cut?
Delmonico cut is basically the same thing as a ribeye. Okay. Just like on one end of the ribeye.
What is a T-bone?
T-bone is on the short loin, and that comes after the porterhouse. Porterhouse.
Right, yeah, let's just go through these cuts so I can understand this.
Okay, so porterhouse is going to have the filet mignon side on one side of the bone, and on the other side of the bone, you have the strip steak.
Ooh, so if you order a porterhouse at the restaurant, you're getting two great cuts.
You are.
Okay. But always eat the strip side first. So you get the, right? Whatever order.
Just dig in.
All right. So that has the bone in it. Then what is a tomahawk steak?
Tomahawk steak is a ribeye. And it's got that whole rib section.
So basically that meat is a rib. That bone is a rib.
Yeah, that bone is the rib.
Interesting.
Yep. So if you've ever seen, and I hope I don't get in trouble here, the Bearded Butchers.
I haven't.
Okay, they have a
TV show.
It's
or YouTube channel.
A YouTube channel, and they are always breaking down sides of cattle, and you'll get a great vision of a tomahawk and what they're cutting.
Okay.
And how to cut it, and they'll break down the little primal cuts too. But to see them actually break down a whole side is amazing.
Yeah, it's an art.
And it's heavy too.
It is
you
heavy.
Look at these things and they're, 500 pounds.
Well, look how strong you are, man.
Oh.
So there's a lot. Butchers are strong people. Very strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you got to have a lot of help too. There's, hooks and rack systems that help you out, but
Sure.
still you got to pick it up and move it on the table. So,
All right. So you're going through, as we're moving through the cow, you have some of those cuts. If somebody's going to the store first time, like they're like, this podcast was awesome, I want to go get a steak.
Mhm.
And they walk in and they're like, oh man, these things are, the Wagyu is what? A lot. It's expensive meat.
well, okay. So we have a steak right now,
Uh-huh.
and it's Australian Wagyu.
Ooh.
It's $71.99 a pound.
Wow.
Yeah.
So someone's going to have a great 4th of July
Yeah,
if
they
they're
are.
cooking on that. So if that's out of some people's price range,
Yep.
what would you recommend for the average person walking in the store?
I would recommend go to Choice.
Okay.
All right. And if you're really bound on going prime, not a problem, just a little bit extra.
And then what cut would you think about or would you start with?
So depending on what their questions are and what they're cooking, what their application is going to be, we have a variety of steaks. Of course, like always, we have the ribeye, we have strip steaks, we got chuck steaks, we got the chuck eye centers. We have boneless short ribs, which is weird because what we call a boneless short rib, some parts of the country or states call that a Denver.
Oh, interesting.
And what we call the Denver here is actually called a ranch steak.
So what is that? A cut?
So
what cut is that?
It comes off the clod, and clods are usually used for grinding,
Okay.
making hamburger.
Yep.
But you can cut English roasts out of that. You can get a petite steak, a blade steak out of that. Flat irons come out of that. And like the ranch steaks, those are lesser cuts, but they're not terrible either. The only thing that is going to make a terrible steak is the person cooking it.
Well done.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. That is so funny when I see it. I love cooking steak, so I'm very particular about that medium rare.
Now we have also hanger steaks, which is
I've
called
heard of that.
with the butcher's cut. We've had them in the past, and people really haven't recognized them because it's not a flattering looking steak. It's in the shape of a small tenderloin.
So people don't know what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you sell it to them and tell them how to cook it and cut it correctly, they're coming back for it.
Oh, yeah.
I had a woman that came in and she wanted to make steak Caesar salads. And she was wondering what would be a good cut. And I said, these hanger steaks. Told her the correct way to cook it and cut it. And she came back and bought 5 more pounds the next day.
So is this the idea of kind of like cutting across the collagen to
the grain?
Yep.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I've seen that.
If you cut it with the grain, flank steak, for instance.
Makes a much better cut if you cut it with it.
Right. If you cut flank steak with the grain, you're going to end up with a chewy piece of meat. That's just not a good experience.
Yeah. No, because you'd be chewing on it for like 5 minutes. Yeah. That's probably what happens, what turns people off with meat.
Yeah.
They get a poor piece of steak or it's cooked too much and then they don't enjoy it. All right. So thinking about all the people that are going to be grilling this weekend, you have any ideas for recipes?
My favorite thing to do when I'm grilling is I like to come up with a chimichurri.
Okay.
Now, you can add whatever herbs you want to this. It's basically an herb paste. Think of a pesto, if you will.
Sure.
It's got garlic, parsley, cilantro, basil, Parmesan cheese, red pepper flake. You can add as much or as little as you'd like to that. A little bit of olive oil and maybe a splash of vinegar just to open everything up.
Yeah.
And you got a nice little paste. Grill your steak just when it's just about done. Slather that stuff on there. Put it off.
Oh,
yeah.
That sounds really good. Do you ever marinate your steak?
Yeah. Sometimes I'll make just a basic marination with Worcestershire sauce, olive oil, vinegar, garlic.
And then what do you think about people using sauce in their steaks? I'm laughing
because okay.
Don't tell me you're an A1 guy.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
no.
dig hot dogs too. So, I mean,
Yes.
but
You're used to putting stuff on there.
sometimes, it all depends on the mood I'm in.
Yeah. Well, A1's got a good flavor
Yeah.
for sure. All right. Well, are there anything else? Any other ideas you got for people thinking about the 4th, or they could make a good side that goes with meat? I know your brain's always thinking recipes and fun
Yeah.
stuff.
A couple years back, we were camping with friends, and this one group brought up this Mexican street corn.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Did you look and ask how they made that?
I did.
And what'd
And
you find out? Let's hear it.
my wife makes it way better than I do.
Does she? Does it have beans in it?
No, it's just corn,
Uh-huh.
mayonnaise, Parmesan cheese.
Wait, now what kind of corn? You're talking like
Corn on the cob.
Okay.
You roast it, cook it on the grill. Soak your
Ooh.
corn in the husk in water for probably 4 hours.
Yep.
Put it on the grill. What that's going to do is going to steam. It's because it's in the husk. It's
Sure.
going to steam. I like getting some grill marks on there.
Oh, yeah.
All right. And then, of course, it's a process. You got to cut the kernels off the corn.
That's a process. I love this, though, because this is part of cooking is the preparation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're adding cilantro and gosh, I wish I knew all the ingredients. I'll probably come up with it as I'm driving down the road.
Well, yeah, here's what we'll do, though. If you get all those ingredients to me, you'll just email me or something. I'll put them under this podcast so someone can get them all.
Yeah, that's a great side.
How would you consume that then? Were you eating that with chips, or you just put it on next to the steak on the
Yeah,
side?
you could eat it with chips. You could eat it with a fork spoon. Yeah.
I love corn. Yeah, and so for the people that don't know, my in-laws are farmers out in Iowa.
Okay.
And they farm corn and beans, and they do sweet corn close to the house. So
okay, the first 8 rows.
Yeah, that the raccoons are always pulling down because they know how good it is. Yeah, no, sweet corn is definitely one of my favorite. So,
and another thing I recommend is whatever you're doing, have fun doing it.
Sure.
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to ask the butcher, the guy behind the counter, what's the best way to cook this?
You mean you might know something back there?
There's a few of us.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you know a lot back there. Yeah.
So don't be afraid to ask. We love sharing.
Sure. Yeah, well, you've got a lot of knowledge.
Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of knowledge. Yeah, and so I think also what happens in midlife is people become a little more interested in cooking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cooking is one of the best ways that you can influence your health because you have control over it. You have control over the ingredients. You have control over the process, and then learning to enjoy that process.
Right.
That's part of the cooking, and I love doing that for my family. My wife's a fabulous cook. I like doing the grill and the smoker and all that stuff. We're going to smoke some ribeyes this weekend.
Great.
So this stuff all just makes me smile. Brisket. Let's say somebody wants to do a big brisket for the family. They want to throw it on a smoker. They don't know much about smoking. How long? What happened? Brisket's a tough cut.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, because it's you got the grain and everything. It's going 2 different ways.
And then where is it found on the cattle?
Just about up by the chest underneath
is the brisket.
Yeah.
Okay. Right before
Shoulder.
the bacon. Oh, we don't get bacon from cows.
No,
That's
no.
so sad.
But
could you imagine a
else,
strip of bacon from a cow? It'd be like 3 feet long. That'd be a whole new world if we had bacon from a cow. All right. So it's a very tough cut, but brisket, when it's done right, man.
Oh, yeah.
Fabulous.
So don't trim too much of the fat off.
Okay.
All right. Again, you want that fat as flavor.
Does it render down? Is that kind of the word?
It does. It renders right into the meat.
Yep.
I like to score it.
Ooh. So just put some slices on the. Yep.
Yeah. You trim a little bit. If there's a lot on it, you can trim it off. Yeah, sure. But leave a good portion on there. Score it.
Yep.
Season it very well. Because whatever renderings off of that fat that you have it seasoned, it's going to drip right into that meat.
Ooh.
Soak it right up. Now, we smoke brisket at the market.
Yep.
And we do it for 18 hours.
That is amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. So by the time it comes out, it's soft.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It pulls, just pull it apart.
Yeah. And so for the people that don't know it, what cooking something for that long does, it breaks down the collagen. and the collagen is what holds that meat together with all those fibers. So you basically cook the collagen right out, and now you have a beautiful piece of meat.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn, that makes me excited. I got to do brisket again.
Well, come see us.
You know that. I love coming over and seeing you.
Yeah.
For sure. All right. Well, I think that's kind of wraps up our grill and meats episode.
Okay.
You're the man. You got a lot of knowledge.
Thanks.
If people are looking for some meat, I recommend getting over Harbor Market.
Yep.
They have a fine bourbon selection too.
Oh boy, do they. And we got great wine too to go with all these steaks and chickens.
Sounds like a good weekend.
So we just don't have steaks there. We got lots of good pork products. We got good chicken.
Yep.
Stuffed chicken breasts that we're just started doing.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, John, I want to thank you for your time. For all my listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Purpose Maker. This one's going to land on 4th of July, so you'll have some good ideas for the weekend.
Great.
John, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.